After marrying Andrew, I spent 7 years helping him build his fortune. But on the eve of his coronation, he forced me to hang myself. "The Wang family is of noble birth," he declared. "No one is more suited to be the mother of the nation. But you, Charlotte, are my first wife. If I were to demote you to a mere concubine, the Wang family's daughter would be subject to gossip." So he wanted me dead, to make way for a noblewoman. As the palace servants were stringing me up, he was still feigning affection. "Charlotte, it is not that I have found a new love. The court is unstable, and I must consider the bigger picture. I have wronged you in this life. In the next, may we be an ordinary common couple." I never thought his words would be so prophetic. The moment he finished speaking, the beam I was hanging from collapsed. It fell on both of us, and just like that, we began our next life. I had always known that it wasn't a coincidence that I had found the injured Andrew by the side of the road. It was all a part of his plan. But he was such a good actor, he had played the part of the biding his time prince to perfection, refusing countless noblewomen for my sake, withstanding all the pressure when I remained childless for 3 years. So when I found out the truth, I was in disbelief. At the imperial temple, under the peach blossoms, the man who had shared my bed for 1,000 nights held another woman and sneered. "Why do you even bother with her? She is just a commoner." If I wasn't afraid of my father and brothers growing suspicious, I would never have chosen her over you. Don't worry, when I ascend the throne, the one standing by my side will be you. Fortunately, I have a few redeeming qualities. I am patient, and I know how to adapt. So what if my husband didn't love me? If he failed in his bid for the throne, I, with no children and no background, would be spared in the ensuing power struggle. If he succeeded, then, for my years of service in helping him maintain his cover, I might lose the position of empress, but I could still live a comfortable life as a concubine. Much better than being a farmer's wife. So I never exposed his secret. I even went out of my way to create opportunities for him to meet other noblewomen. I was the perfect, understanding wife. Later, his brothers turned on each other, and the old emperor died. Just as I was about to reap the rewards of my patience, on the eve of his coronation, he came to our old residence. He asked me how he could consolidate his power in a court full of powerful families and ministers. "Marry into one of them," I had replied. He was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so accommodating. "To stabilize the court," I had added with a show of selflessness. "It is inevitable that the harem will be expanded. I am just a commoner, of little talent and virtue. I am willing to step aside." As long as he felt a little guilty and compensated me well after his coronation. He was silent for a long time. "Charlotte," he had finally said, "that is what I was thinking. The Wang family's daughter is of noble birth. No one is more suited to be the mother of the nation. But you, Charlotte, are my first wife. If I were to demote you to a concubine without reason, she would be subject to gossip." His words gave me a flicker of hope, but then he continued, and the servants entered, one of them holding a white silk scarf on a tray. "Long live the emperor." I realized what was happening and tried to run, but it was too late. They held me down and threw the scarf over the beam. I struggled, but the silk tightened around my neck. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. "Andrew, if I had known, I would have let you die on that road." But my muffled cries must have sounded like sobs to him. He stood under the beam, a look of pained resignation on his face. "Charlotte, it is not that I have found a new love. The court is unstable, and I must consider the bigger picture. I have wronged you in this life. In the next, may we be an ordinary common couple." And then the beam collapsed. It wasn't really a next life. It was my 17th year. The year I had found him. My parents were still alive. I was strong and worked in the fields with my aging father. This year, my father was working harder than ever, even tending to a small vegetable patch behind our house. He was saving every coin to provide a dowry for me. Yes, a dowry. I was their only child, born to them late in life. They had given up on having a son and had pinned all their hopes on finding me a husband who would marry into our family. When I woke up from my rebirth, My father had just returned from the market. He had a half-empty basket of cabbages. "Is Charlotte feeling better?" he asked my mother. "It is my fault. She was still weak from her illness, and I let her work in the sun." I had been crying in my mother's arms for a while. Seeing my father, I was about to run to him, but his worried expression made me stop. "I am fine, father. It was just the sun." He had brought back a man from the market, a refugee from the floods in the south. His name was Liam. He had offered to marry into our family in exchange for help for his sick sister. Last time, I had refused. We were poor ourselves and couldn't afford to take in 2 more mouths to feed. I had just given him a little money and had helped him find a place to stay. Later, after I had gone to the capital, it was he who had brought me the news of my parents' death. He had looked after them in my absence. So this time, when my father mentioned the 2 men he had brought back, I immediately thought of him. I would marry him, cure his sister, and save myself from Andrew. I even put on a little rouge. But when I saw the 2 men behind my father, I froze. It was not just Liam, it was also Andrew. He was a wreck, even worse than the last time I had seen him, lying by the side of the road. But I would have known him anywhere. I instinctively looked around for his guards. He was an expert at playing the victim. My father was oblivious. "Charlotte, this is Liam, and this is Andrew. They are both refugees, and they are willing to marry into our family." He was clearly more impressed with Andrew, who didn't have a sick sister in tow. Liam, seeing my father's preference, bowed low. "Miss Sang, I know I am not a worthy candidate. I only ask for a little help for my sister. I am willing to be your servant for 3 years. I was about to help him up when Andrew lunged at me. "Charlotte, what have you done? How did I get here? How dare you insult me like this, making me choose between 2 peasants? You shameless harlot." So, he had been reborn too, and he still thought he was the emperor. Me mother, hearing his insults, grabbed a broom and started beating him. She even hit Liam by mistake. "How dare you speak to my daughter like that? I'll have the village chief run you out of town." I had intended to stop her, but then I didn't. Andrew was a prince, he had guards, but they were nowhere to be seen. This was a good opportunity to get rid of him. After she had driven them out, my father sighed. I thought they were both good lads. I guess one of them was a lunatic. "We don't need either of them," my mother said. "My Charlotte deserves the best." That night, my father cracked open some walnuts for me by the fire. "Don't eat too many," he said. "You'll get a stomach ache." "Mother," I said, "can I have some money?" She gave me a jar full of coins without a word. I took it and went to the village doctor. Liam was waiting for me outside. He thanked me for my kindness. "From now on, whatever Miss Sang asks, I will do." "It is nothing," I said. "After all, I am using your dowry money. I am a greedy person. I take what I can get, even from those I am indebted to. My house is small. You can bring your sister to stay with me tomorrow. When we've built 2 more rooms, I'll come and marry you." He blushed as I was leaving. A voice called out my name. It was Andrew. He was no longer acting like a madman. He must have realized that his rebirth was real, and that I didn't seem to remember my past life. He started to try and win me over, pointing out Liam's poverty and his sick sister. "I, on the other hand," he said with a charming smile, "am only temporarily down on my luck. I am a young master from a wealthy family in the capital. If you could just give me enough money for a horse, I will return home and come back with a grand betrothal gift." So, he was in some kind of trouble. His guards were gone, and he was broke. This was the perfect time to get rid of him. That night, I couldn't sleep. He was staying with the other refugees in an old house at the edge of the village. I couldn't get to him, and even if I could, how could a mere farm girl kill a man? Then I remembered. In my past life, I had heard that the first prince's cousin, a talented but reckless young official, had been banished to a nearby county. If I could just let him know that a rival prince was in the area. The next morning, Liam and his sister were at my door. "Who let you come here?" my father grumbled. "Let them in," I said. "Sister can stay with me, and you," I said to my father. Go and get him some of your old clothes. He can't work in the fields in those rags." My father was thrilled. He had always wanted me to get married. He gave Liam clothes and tools, and the two of them went off to the fields. By noon, I had become good friends with his sister. Her name was Wang Shu. My mother, who had been wary of him, was charmed by her. My father, however, was not so pleased when he came back for lunch. "He is useless. He cut his hands. He can't even tie a bundle of wheat properly." Liam was so ashamed he wouldn't even come inside. "Give him some ointment," my father grumbled, "and then tell him to come and eat. He is as thin as a rail." I wanted to laugh. He blushed when I touched his hand. That afternoon, my father suggested he rest, but I refused, and he, eager to prove his worth, agreed. My mother pulled me aside. "You should be kinder to him. He'll remember it." But I knew better. I had been kind to Andrew, and what had it gotten me? A broken heart and a silken noose. Let him work. Let him earn his keep. Andrew came to see me a few times, but I pretended not to know him. When he got too persistent, I would complain to the village chief, who would then make his life even more miserable. The news that Liam was to marry into our family spread through the village. The day the new rooms were finished, I went to the old house to invite the other refugees to our wedding. Andrew was there. He was furious. "Charlotte, I told you you could have had a life of luxury, but you chose this commoner. You will regret this. Do you have any idea whose love you have rejected?" "The Emperor's, I suppose," I said, playing along. "Sorry, Your Majesty. Can't be your concubine." Everyone laughed. He had tried to pull the "I am a princess" card before, but no one had believed him. He was so angry he fainted on the way home. Liam was quiet. "Are you having second thoughts?" he finally asked. "About marrying me, a commoner?" The way he looked at me then, under the stars, so full of a self-deprecating sadness, I couldn't resist. I leaned in and kissed him. "You are not a commoner," I whispered. "Not in my past life, and not in this one." In my past life, he had passed the imperial exams and had become a respected official. "And even if you were," I added, "I would still choose you." The next day, I went to the market. I told my father I was going to sell the last of the cabbages, but my real purpose was to go to the next town over. I left Liam to mind the stall and went to the beggar's den. I gave a young boy a few coins and asked him to pass a message to the magistrate's office. But the boy just looked at me confused. "The third prince? What third prince?" I was stunned. The current emperor was known for having few children. Andrew's birth had been a national event. How could he not know? "You must be mistaken," I said. The boy, indignant, brought over an old man who just rolled his eyes. "The emperor's third son is still in some concubine's belly. When a prince is born, it is announced to the whole empire we would know." "Are you mad, girl?" Something was wrong. I gave the old man a few coins and left. When I got back to the stall, Liam had already sold all the cabbages. On the way home, I asked him, "How many sons does the emperor have?" "Two, I believe," he said. "Has a new one been born? I have been on the road for so long, I have not seen any new proclamations." That night, I asked my mother, "The third prince? What third prince?" The pieces started to come together. Andrew's disheveled appearance, the absence of his guards, his desperation for money, and now this. No one, from the emperor down to the common beggar, had any memory of a third prince. A few days later, some officials came to the village to inspect the refugee settlement. I had a bad feeling. The refugees were all lined up, their papers being checked. When they got to Andrew, he had no papers. "Who are you to question me?" he had blustered. "I am the crown prince. Send for your magistrate." The officials, who had been dealing with his arrogance for days, were unimpressed. They just took him away. He came back a few days later, having been beaten 30 times with a cane. He was claiming to be the third prince, the village chief said, shaking his head. The magistrate was merciful. He just had him beaten as a madman and sent him back. He was an outcast now. No one would help him. He came to our wedding. his clothes stained with blood, and made a scene. "How could you? You were supposed to be my wife. I promised you a life as a commoner." The other refugees dragged him out. He was driven from the village and was never seen again. We had 2 years of peace. The 3rd year, there was a drought. But we had saved, and we managed. And because we had 3 able-bodied workers, and my sister, in-law's embroidery, we even had a small surplus. Liam had been studying in his spare time. We finally had enough to send him to the capital for the imperial exams. My parents and his sister decided to go with him. I had been reluctant. I didn't want to leave my parents again, but he had just said, "Then we'll all go together." As we were leaving, we heard that a wild man had come down from the mountains, ranting and raving. "I know, you've been reborn too. It was you who did this to me. I am a prince. I am the emperor. You are just a peasant. You were never worthy of me." Liam passed the exams with a slightly better ranking than in his past life. He was handsome, and at the announcement of the results, he was swarmed by noble families, looking for a promising son-in-law. My sister-in-law came running, telling me to go and protect my husband. "Let them have him," I had joked. "We can get a noble woman to be a co-wife. She can support the family." But then I saw my father standing behind her, a look of pure terror on his face. And behind him, Liam, his face as black as ink. He just turned and walked away. He was angry with me for a long time, until I finally broke down and told him how jealous I was, how much I loved him. That night, I woke up to find him staring at me, tears streaming down his face. "Charlotte," he whispered, "why was I so late? Why didn't you wait for me?" He was trapped in a nightmare, reliving his past life. I leaned in and kissed him. "You are not late. You are right on time, my dear husband." Epilogue: Liam was appointed magistrate of Yangzhou. We all went with him. We passed through his hometown, and he wanted to show me his ancestral home, but his relatives attacked us, furious that he had married into another family and had not continued his own line. "Did you want our family to die out?" they had yelled. "Where were you when we were starving?" His sister had screamed back. We left after a brief visit to his parents' graves. I was worried he would regret his decision, that he would want our daughter to take his name. "You still don't trust me," he had said with a smile. "If my sister wants to continue the family line, she can. If not, then it ends with us. It is not a big deal. You saved us. Charlotte, you gave birth to our child. Her name is your choice." We settled in a small town in Yangzhou. I had thought that after he became an official, my days of farming would be over. But an official's salary was not enough to support our large family. So we worked the land from dawn till dusk. And whenever there was a disaster, a drought in the north or a flood in the south, he would donate a portion of our savings to the relief efforts. "I was once saved by such kindness," he had said. When I had asked him why, "I just want to pass it on."